It's cozy season, and nothing compares to wrapping yourself in a Minky Couture blanket. Luxuriously soft, perfectly warm, thoughtfully made. From movie nights to chilly mornings, Minky Couture turns everyday moments into pure comfort. Once you feel it, you'll understand why it's called the original best blanket ever. Visit minkycouture.com or a store near you and make this cozy season your softest one yet.
Oh, what are you doing? I'll tell you what you're doing. You're listening to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. Either you are, or I'll be skipping rope with your entrails. Ta-ta.
This podcast is brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast. Robots Radio. Games, lore, stories, community. Just press play. Welcome to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, the podcast where we explore the amazing universe of the Elder Scrolls. Adventurers! Welcome to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. This is your host, Tom, or Robots. As usual, I've got Lotus of Doom right here next to me.
Hello.
And Lotus, we've been going through the lands and locations of Tamriel. And
we sure have.
We've almost actually literally come full circle to where we started.
Nearly. We've been trying to make a full circle. I mean, it's a little wiggly.
Yeah,
depending upon, the outline of Tamriel.
Right, but like Tamriel is based, even the locations, even the places are like a wheel with spokes. Like if you think about it, Cyrodiil's in the middle, and all the other locations are around the edges.
Yeah, all right. All right, yeah, I'm down.
You got that. We started with Morrowind, and we've worked our way all the way around clockwise through the continent, and now we're up to Skyrim.
Yes, it's a really unknown region.
Nobody's ever been there.
No, it's
all rumor.
There was
and
a
myth.
very unknown game that came out briefly in 2011. I think like one or two people played it, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, you might have heard of it. I don't know. It's got a pretty abstract title.
Pretty abstract title. Yeah. No, we're going to Skyrim. Like
We're going to Skyrim.
This is okay. So there's. We're going to have some fun with this episode. Skyrim is the most well-known location. I mean, we've got
objectively the most popular.
We've got Cyrodiil in Oblivion. We have Morrowind in Morrowind. There are locations that we spend other time in any of the other mainline games, and the more modern ones that really fleshed out locations in more detail. Skyrim,
sure,
being the last of the mainline games and the most popular one, is probably the one most people are familiar with. So,
well, you never hear people asking when is Oblivion 2 or when is Morrowind 2. On people who are not super invested in the series don't ask for when is Elder Scrolls 6. They ask for when is Skyrim 2,
yes,
which is hyper cringe. But
yes,
at the same time, it's like, okay, yeah, you didn't notice that the Skyrim is the subtitle, not the actual game.
Right. And as a content creator, you actually have to play into this a little bit, because if you search something like Google Trends for Skyrim and then compare it to how many people search Elder Scrolls, it's like 10 times more people than search Elder Scrolls. But it'll also say things like similar, like commonly searched terms.
Right.
Skyrim 2. Skyrim 2.
Yeah.
In fact, I did a video a while ago on my YouTube channel where in the text of the video, I mentioned Skyrim 2, and not in a like calling it that way, but just putting the text in there so that it show up for search.
Yeah. So it was in like the search.
Yeah. And somebody called me out on it. They're like, well, clearly you don't know anything. Skyrim 2, what WTF? Like, I'm the idiot who thinks it's going to be called Skyrim 2. And it's like, you have no freaking clue, dude. This is, I'm pandering to the people who don't know better. It's not that I don't know better.
He is a YouTube commenter, or she is a YouTube commenter. So clearly they know best.
Clearly they knew best, because everybody who comments on everything on YouTube is clearly smarter than the person making the videos.
Yes.
Which is sometimes true, but not always. So anyway, enough of the complaining here about that stuff. We are going to make our way through Skyrim. We're going to talk about all the holds, all all the different main cities and locations, there are, I mean, I've looked at the list, Lotus. I pulled up the list of all the named locations throughout Skyrim. All right. We would be here for like 5 hours.
Yeah, this is a region that is very, very fleshed out.
Yes.
Throughout the series, we've been there a lot. We've seen a lot. There's not, even through the changing landscapes of the different eras, we really know a lot about Skyrim as a region. So there's a lot to this section.
Right. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's start with the holds. I'm going to name a hold, and then you give me your first initial reaction, like your one or two word response to that hold, and then we'll talk about a little bit of the details. We're pulling the details as usual from the UESP. It's a wonderful source for all the information that you would want. So if you want to deep dive a wiki for relevant information, go look for that. But here we go. Let's start. Ready? The hold of Eastmarch.
Cold.
Are you going to say cold for all of them? Because it is freaking Skyrim.
Specifically cold, because Eastmarch. All right. So the reason I say cold for Eastmarch is when you're in Eastmarch, you are like, that is the region where when you think of like kind of just like the generic winter area, it's Eastmarch.
Winter, but not like frozen tundra.
Not necessarily.
Right.
And it's also been in more than one game. Like,
that's true.
So you also have that, which is Eastmarch and ESO, which is what I'm kind of referring to, is not we'll get to the Rift part later, but not the temperate area, not some of the other zones around Skyrim. So this one it definitely gives off the winter vibe more so, I find, than some of the others. I mean, they all do have their winter vibe, but
it's got like a Christmas town quality to it, like Christmas town, snow and pine trees.
And I mean, you've got like, Windhelm and stuff like that. It's very, that's your snowy capital, I guess would be the best way I would put it.
That's your snowy capital. Yes, that makes sense. So here, we'll get into the details a little bit here. This is one of the holds, but this is one of the 4 known old holds that were known as the old holds, like that go way, way back. And it is on the eastern side of Skyrim. Basically, this butts up to the right to the Morrowind section in that part, like those mountains over there. And in ESO, it actually extends a little bit more northward than it does in Skyrim. The borders are slightly different. And this is one of those things that ESO takes a location, they change it up a little bit, but it makes sense because it's hundreds of years before the events of the Elder Scrolls Skyrim. So things were a little bit different. Different locations are named. And we're going to go into a little bit of this as we move on, especially when we get to places like the Reach. So there's this location. It goes right up against the Velothi Mountains. Windhelm is over here. So how do you feel about Windhelm?
I mean, it's a pretty interesting staple of a city, just in general. Like with you're looking at the whole map area. The one thing that I guess, let me see, how can I put this best? Winterhold, the one thing that really
Windhelm, not Winterhold.
I'm sorry, Windhelm. Sorry, yeah. Windhelm. Windhelm, just like I don't know, the region itself is very memorable. The city is unique. It's got the that's where a decent amount of main story stuff happens. It's got that very unique bridge that goes to it, which I think is a cool aesthetic. The thing about it that is very strange, though, because the maps in the series are suspect based on they're
not all consistent.
They're not.
Yeah.
And this one was one of the first ones that kind of broke my brain when ESO dropped, because it is radically different than that of the game Elder Scrolls V Skyrim.
Yes.
In the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, if you go behind the city itself, it kind of is these snowy plains, and you can get to this giant statue of Azura.
Right. Yeah. Up on the way to Winterhold as you continue north. Yeah.
Yes. In ESO,
and it's mostly north. It is northwest.
Right.
Right.
In ESO, it's basically the city wall and then an impassable mountain, and that's pretty much it. It's just the end of the map. At that region.
Right.
And I just remember being like kind of very confused because I love that giant statue. So like I tried to go back. I was like, oh, that's different in this one.
It's not there. You can't go that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that always kind of sticks out to me as obviously some type of, you want to keep it in lore. There's some type of weird geometric shift or something like that. Or it could have been because they were both, being designed at the same time and the maps don't entirely sync up from game to game.
Yeah. Winterhold seemingly is more west in ESO's map than it is.
It seems to be.
It seems to be. It seems like it must, but it isn't actually in the map yet because they haven't actually built out that part of ESO.
Right.
But if they were to, it would appear that it would have to go westward rather than northward, which is a little bit weird. The coastline's different somehow. But, video games, you got to, everything's not going to be identical or perfect.
And, there's a big time period. You can come up with some headcanon for it to explain it if it makes you feel better.
Maybe that whole part of the continent is all just like floating
tectonic plates just shifting all wacky like or
glaciers, like it's all actually on glacier and so it slides over time. Maybe you can come up with some reason. Now this area is interesting for a few other reasons. According to ancient legend, there are hot springs over here, and the hot springs were created when the hero Wounding fought a mighty Daedra and defeated it with a flaming hammer. The hammer's blows melted the Daedra, leaving behind numerous hot springs. I have a feeling that's 100% true.
No exaggerations. That's true. That's clearly what happened.
Yep. And then there's some other locations over here, and but we won't go into the details on that stuff. Next up, because we got to get through this. This could be a really long episode.
We'll try to condense this.
We're going to try to condense it. Right. All right. So what do you think of the Pale?
All right. The Pale would be the region with like Dawnstar. Am I correct?
The Pale. Here, I'll read a little bit to kind of refresh your mind.
Do this from memory because the cities matched with the holds they're in. I want to make sure that I got it right. Yeah, it looks like.
Yeah, Dawnstar is the northern part of the Pale.
To anybody wondering why I'm looking to the side, if you're watching the video, I have a map next to me.
He's pulling up the map.
I'm not just thinking against a wall.
Right. So the Pale or Pale Hold is named for both its pallid tundra and the pigmentation of its Nord inhabitants because Nords are pale. I also feel like that this would be a great name for like a very northern based horror film.
Okay.
Like based out in the snow, like snow monster shows up and like hunts down people.
So this is what I was thinking. This region, like I can tell you right now, one of the ones that I always found about this, just by the way the map lays out and these long stretches of like tundra that you go through, the Pale is like lonely. Same thing with Dawnstar. It's not overly inhabited like some of the other holds and stuff like that. It's a lot of stretches of like cold wasteland almost. So we're going with a word or two to describe something. I would think lonely for the Pale. Yeah,
lonely. I guess that makes sense. Dawnstar is even a little town. It's a hold,
but by comparison, it's much smaller.
Right. It is. I mean, it's a major. It's a city, I guess, but it's much smaller.
I was going to say it also has a highly suspect Elder Scrolls travel game based on Dawnstar. Yeah, highly suspect.
That's true. So there are some waterways around here. It's kind of this middle area that's just between a number of the other zones up on the northern side of the map. And Dawnstar is the main city location over here. Yeah. All right. What about Winterhold? Let's move a little bit to the east. We're at the top right side of the map. School. That's what you think of. So
I do. It's the college is the most prevalent thing from the region, as well as the town around it. But you kind of think of like the whole magic college, the arcane, all of that stuff. That's I would think the big go-to. I mean, it is where I made mention of it being cold and snowy earlier. This place is like a death trap where it seems like, it's literally collapsing and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's the college is really the main focal point, I think, of this hold.
Yeah, I agree. This is the most tundra-like section on the map. Everything's white and icy. And you have the city up there of Winterhold is not much of a city. It's like 4 buildings or something.
Yeah.
It's like
it's
maybe
a
6.
really dilapidated place.
It is and they even talk about it when you go up there. People were like, yeah, we've come on hard times. They talk about why nobody lives there anymore. But the college is up there, and the weird structure that the college is on that somehow hasn't toppled over yet.
Give it time.
Yeah, it seems like it's being held up by magic. So yeah, that's all on that side of the map. Then we have here. Let's move a little bit back to the west again. Let's go to Hjalmarch.
Poor, swampy. I don't.
Poor and swampy. Yeah,
poor and swampy.
We continue west of the Pale, and we end up at Hjalmarch. Before we get to Solitude, this has got to be the swampiest part of the map.
Yeah, it's and not swampy as in like black marsh swampy. Like there are swamps and moors and bogs floating around, but you've also got that very unpleasant, like trudging through the woods in late fall or late, autumn, if you have that season, or early winter, where it's just like, yeah, things aren't frozen, but everything is just miserable and wet.
It's just wet and cold, but not quite frozen.
And cold and damp and
yeah.
That's what I would say. That's Hjalmarch in a nutshell.
Yeah. So the only main settlement here is Morthal, which, as Rob the Princess says in chat,
yes, as Rob
spooky ass
lots
Morthal.
of ghosts.
Lots of ghosts. Yeah, this area
Ghosts
is kind of
woods.
the most haunted kind of feeling region too. Like if you were to film, like a found footage horror film, it would be.
You're gonna go to Hjalmarch.
Yeah, it would be in like the woods and the swamps of Hjalmarch.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So also Labyrinthian is over here, which is a very fancy location.
Also, kind of, I guess, keeping in line with Labyrinthian's kind of freaky in and of itself. So continuing on Rob's kind of point of the unsettling ghosty bit, like it's got an unsettling vibe in Labyrinthian.
Yeah, this is an ancient Nordic ruin which contains lots of secret-y, magic-y stuff that you do in the playing through of some of the quest lines, like the college, which we mentioned.
Spooky zone.
All right, so how about the next one? Hoffinger. Hoffinger Hold.
That includes Solitude, right?
So Hoffinger is a relatively small mountainous coastal hold in northwestern Skyrim. Its capital is the famed city of Solitude.
Yes. All right. So in terms of that, I think extravagant, because I find Solitude completely over the top compared with the Blue Palace and everything like that.
Yeah.
That feels like an imperial capital type of thing, which is ironic because that's kind of where they're set up shop in the Fourth Era.
Well, it makes sense because these other regions are kind of falling into ruin and are obviously smaller cities. Solitude is one of the only locations that, although it's still not huge by like any modern sense of a city, it actually, you walk through it and I mean, there's maybe 24 buildings, which for the scale of games like Skyrim is pretty significant.
Right.
It's a very fleshed out place. So it also makes sense that a place like this would having the money of the empire behind it would be more fleshed out and built up and less rural looking, even if it's a city, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's Hoffinger. It's the top left side of the map, the northwest. And below Hoffinger is the Reach. And the Reach is a really interesting zone because of the history of the Reachmen and all of that stuff. We did an episode on that. Go back and listen to it if you want.
Right.
How do you feel about the Reach?
I actually really like the Reach. The Reach is, I don't know, temperate forest galore here. And the main thing that I like about the Reach, which I don't know how to condense this into a word other than just saying Markarth with like an exclamation point, is that city is so unique, whether you love it or hate it.
Yeah. So Markarth,
really unique.
The main city here.
Actually, Rob gave me 3 words to work with, which I would like to actually go with. Banjo strumming furiously. Boom. All right. I am on board with that.
The Reach people, The reach people are the equivalent of like I don't know, rednecks out in the bayou or something. Like, what is going on here?
I just feel like, it's very witchcrafty, as Outlander Frog mentions. Markarth is also one of my favorite cities as well.
Now, what is it about the city? Obviously, it's very unique.
It's very unique, and I love the way that the waterfalls and Dwemer ruins are built into the city itself. Mm-hmm. It gives it such a unique feel compared to even some of the other ones.
It's like the Nords just kind of moved into an already existing location
and then just modified it to make it theirs. I really like that. It's very, very striking visually type of thing. And because it's more of like, as a city, it almost comes across as more of a fortress.
Yes.
Because of how it's built.
Yeah.
So you get very much like the outside elements kind of slamming up against this like wall that has been built into the literal structure of the mountain. So it's very, very unique looking compared to some of the other cities. And I'm a huge fan of it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it is a cool place.
Can be problematic for people.
Well, especially in ESO. It feels even more windy for some reason.
Yes.
In ESO. So these regions, the regions in the Reach side of the map, Solitude all the way down to the Reach, also exist in ESO because they were part of the what was it called? The Gray, what's the name? I lose words too easily. Greymoor, the Greymoor chapter included Western Skyrim, which includes...
Correct. And then you got Markarth as literally the fourth quarter DLC. So it was which was more than just literally Markarth, but it was that region that we're talking about. It's the Reach.
Right. Now, this also plays into a historic hold called Carthald, which exists in ESO because it was during the interregnum when sections of the Northern Reach broke off because of the Reachmen taking control of the area, and then it was no longer being part of like one of the holds of the rest of Skyrim. And so Carthald was kind of this temporary hold that existed just for a little while in the northern part of the Reach.
Right. So, which is good because I thought I was totally like losing my marbles.
You're like, I don't remember Carthald.
Why don't I remember this? And then it's like, oh, right. It was just a temporary thing.
Yep. Temporary thing during the second era, during the events of ESO. And there's a whole storyline that goes on along with that, which is part of why you should go and play Greymoor, which I've been streaming. I've been streaming this live. I was actually doing some of these regions.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah, I was doing some of these regions earlier today and got to some of these fun quest lines with some of the Nords. So
I guess the word for Carthald would be forgettable then.
Carthald, forgotten. 2 eras of the world later, nobody's thinking about it. Yeah. But hey, come hang out with me during my live streams if you guys want to see some ESO content.
Especially if you like the story stuff, because that's more your forte.
I'm on a quest to get through all the quests in the game. I'm
a monumental quest.
Yes, I'm 1016 quests into the game of 2271 total, so not even halfway done, but we'll see. I'll try to get through all of them. All right, let's move on because we have a few more. There's Whiterun hold. What do you think about Whiterun?
Whiterun is just straight up the most popular, like just popularity. That's everybody knows this place. It's the first kind of place you set foot in. It's the first thing you think of. It's always my home city, regardless of my playthrough or whatever. I always snag Breeze home the second I get a chance. It's where your journey kind of starts. Once you leave, it's the first major place you most likely will go to. And I guess minimal spoilers because I'm not going to go into it, but a lot of really important stuff takes place around Winterhold throughout the main story of Skyrim.
Whiterun?
Whiterun. Sorry.
Yeah, I get all the W names confused.
I know. If you couldn't tell, so do I.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Whiterun that I find so interesting is it's a big hold. It's a big region. Whiterun's kind of at the center, and then it's in between all these sections of mountains, right in the middle of Skyrim. Right. But most of that area is like giant camps,
right?
Giant
set up all around,
and caves, and that's about it. Old homesteads with ghosts and like things like that. But otherwise, it's just this very central location. Some of the time, if you're not fast traveling, you find yourself running through because it's in the center of the map.
Because it's your central point on the map in game. And And again, oftentimes you literally need to go there for varying quest reasons. Also, it's, they've got the companions there as well. So it's like there's a major guild faction you can join, which is part of, the Elder Scrolls 5. I want to just say Skyrim, but that's weird just because we're discussing.
It's a place.
So it's just
the name of a game.
Say Elder Scrolls 5.
It's not in Skyrim 2 yet.
Yeah, we haven't made it to Skyrim. But it's really just, I can't imagine that there is any place that most people spend more time in than Whiterun Hold,
especially if you're going back to
the main city.
Yeah, if you're going back to the city to like shop or craft things or whatever, it's got everything right there.
It's like a centralized hub for whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Also, the main storyline, the main quest storyline, you come back there for some very important reasons.
Yeah,
in Whiterun,
more than once.
It is clearly the center and the hub of so many different things that you do in the game. All right, so let's move on to Falkreath.
Falkreath is this one I had earlier. I had mentioned Lonely. Falkreath always strikes me as very sad just because of its well-known graveyard.
Okay.
That's always the thing that stuck out to me the most. It's not nearly like, it almost strikes me as like more spring seasonal compared to some of the others. Like there's actually leaves on trees and stuff. The grass isn't frozen stiff yet.
I think forest when I think Falkreath. It's
very foresty.
Very
yeah,
foresty.
It is. It's very foresty. But yeah, the thing that's always stuck out to me is the graveyard from Falkreath, which is, obviously in game world terms, it's rather small looking, but it's supposed to be it's just massive graveyard. So it's just like, it's got this sad aura to it, and it's definitely one of the less populated zones as well. So it just feels like it's one of those things that it's like a lingering thing of like, oh yeah, there's all these fallen people here. It's like, woof. Yeah.
Well, this is a place with a lot of history, especially by the Fourth Era. Falkreath is also interesting because it does kind of shift over time between being a Skyrim hold and part of the Colovian Estates, because it butts up against the southern part or the northern part of Cyrodiil, which is tied to those, like, I don't know, that it's not a lineage, but the houses, the Colovian families and all of that stuff that goes on down there. So that's that part of it. Okay, so let's move. We're in the southern part of Skyrim. We're coming down around the left side. Let's continue back over to the east. The southeast section is the Rift. What do you think of the Rift?
It's autumn. It is autumn condensed into a zone.
It's the autumn zone.
Yes, it's autumn zone.
So I always think of the Thieves Guild because of
because it's so ingrained in that area.
Yeah.
But yeah, as somebody who lives in New England, it is basically our entire autumn season just as a zone. It's like permanently fall there. You get some really unique colors and stuff like that. And as somebody who lives through that season once a year, it really captures that feeling.
As somebody who doesn't have that season ever where I live, it's also very engaging for me to enjoy it because I don't get it here. Like Florida has like summer and not summer.
Right.
That's it. We get 2 seasons.
Right. So it's like I feel they really did that very well. And yet, to your point of the Thieves Guild thing, Rift in itself, just straight up dirty. That canal, it's just like, it's got this grimy vibe to it. What with the seedy underbelly going on, it's just, you got all the corruption from the Blackbriars over there. It's just like, it's got a smell under all that, like that waterway. They've got all those places like tucked in underneath. They're basically, there's no way to get that dry. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's probably just humid all the time.
It's just humid under there all the time.
Yeah, it's humid. Everybody's stinky.
The cistern, like they literally have the ratway, and
it probably just smells like a toilet the whole time.
Yeah, that's, oh boy. Yeah, it's just gotta be stinky.
All right. Well, so we got the Rift with Rift in it, and there's a few other locations in there, but you're all probably very familiar with these places. Then there's Solstheim. How do you think about Solstheim?
Solstheim, This one, I don't even know how to really stay in lore necessarily, because I just think of it as an expansion all the times. Like, 'cause it always seems like an expansion. It's mainly because it's always an expansion.
It always feels, you have to leave the main map to go there. It legitimately feels like just like going to another place. Yeah.
But like, as Outlander Frog brought up in chat, it also sounds like Mirac because you have the Dragonborn expansion. But it's this weird crossover thing where it's part Morrowind, part Skyrim.
Yeah, and then you've got like the skull and like these other creatures that don't exist anywhere else.
Yeah, it's very unique. I like it because each of the expansions, the other expansion, of course, being from the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, they're good. Like, they're really fun expansions. Like, I like them, but it always does seem like kind of like an addition to what's already there. And that's kind of just all I view that place as. But it's weird because, again, it's kind of half and half. Like,
it's also mostly like rural, not rural, like just non-inhabited. It's a lot of wilderness.
A lot of it is. Yeah, a lot of it is wilderness.
It's just wilderness.
It's kind of on just chunks of it that it's inhabited. The rest of it's just kind of like, not wasteland, but it's just like you said, it's just uninhabited. So it's just, wildlife everywhere.
Yeah, or tundra when you get to the north part of it, or just forested areas with maybe a few caves, but still not people, like Reeklings in them and stuff like that. Right. So yeah. All right. It's a few other little minor locations, and then one big one. Bleak Rock Isle.
Bleak Rock. All right.
This is another location. This is technically it's in Skyrim. Yeah, it is a starter zone for ESO. It's a tiny little island.
It's just kind of funny that it's listed as its own specific thing.
It's not really a hold so much as it's just
that's what I was about to say. Is this a hold? I mean, it's an isle. Like, it's a little island.
Solstheim isn't a hold either. It's just an island.
That's true, but it's at least big enough that I could see it classified as like comparable. Bleak Rock Island is this nubby little island. Like,
it's nubby.
You could basically say Bleak Rock is like an addendum to Solstheim, and it would be acceptable to me because it's like, it's just kind of there. It's just one of these little offshoot islands type of deal.
Right.
But yeah, it's very small. It feels kind of like they're just trying to make an outpost there because that's honestly really all that's kind of there. There's like some crypts and that, but for the most part, it's just sort of this just like small little outpost of some people for the Ebonheart Pact during the time of ESO. And that's kind of the extent that it's there. It's a training island to kind of show you the ropes of the game. Right.
With a few little places to go and a funny little story about this a little guy in a cave that has a funny voice, and you'll have to go play it. What about Ice Reach? This is another little minor location.
I was going to say, that's a very minor location. Okay, it's a really fun dungeon because that's all it is we've seen in game. It is a fun dungeon. I guess if you enjoy the dungeons in Elder Scrolls Online, Ice Reach is a rather fun one.
The visuals are cool. Like, it's got this really kind of, I mean, it's all very Nordic, but the lighting and the snow and the way the buildings look, like...
That one seems highly suspect.
Yeah, it's not a hold. It is not a hold. It is a location. It is a minor island that we have been to, so it is on the list. All right.
I guess it just felt that it should be in which it is part of Skyrim, so sure, like toss it on.
Right.
But like, it's kind of funny.
All right. So one more, Blackreach. Which is a huge expansive zone underneath Skyrim.
Yes.
And we don't need to go in super detail here because we may want to do another episode just on Blackreach. We should probably
do an episode on Blackreach because it started as a dungeon. Well, it's basically a giant cave network underneath Skyrim.
And was expanded on in ESO because originally we thought it was only under the eastern part of Skyrim, but it turns out that parts of it are actually underneath the western part of Skyrim as well.
Right.
So it's bigger than we thought.
It's bigger than we thought. And it's also just like, it's got so many hidden little neat things down there.
And a dragon. Somehow got underground.
And Crimson Nirnroot.
And Crimson Nirnroot, yeah.
But no, like the idea of Blackreach itself, whether you want to just talk about the Skyrim version, if you want to just talk about the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim version, or whether you want to talk about it as a whole, including Elder Scrolls Online, it's pretty neat because it's just like it's honestly it's daunting because it is so big. It's dark down there, and when you first go down there, there's tons of entrances and exits. So when almost everybody, when you go down there, you start exploring around like you would anywhere, and it just keeps going.
Yeah, you think it's like a little cave or something at first. Right. You're like, oh, this is another cave. It expands
more and more.
And then you get lost down there and you're like, this is not just a cave. This is huge. This is a world under my world. What's happening? Right, which is amazing. It's amazing that they included that. Also, Rob points out that there's a big castle. So on the western side of Blackreach, that is true. In ESO, there's a big, gigantic vampire castle underneath the ground. So there's some really cool stuff down in Blackreach. So
yes, the expansion of Blackreach made it a little more of like a mining town in ESO, which is kind of neat because it's obviously another portion of Blackreach from the part you find in the Elder Scrolls V. It's also much prior back in the timeline, so it's actively being like burrowed into to mine and discover stuff, and like it's literally got like underground encampments. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
I like the way they fleshed it out in Elder Scrolls Online actually quite a bit.
Yeah, and the lighting, the lighting's really
awesome
cool
down there.
Yeah, the glowy mushrooms and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Very, very cool zone. Definitely worth checking out. Well, tell you what, we're going to take a break. We're going to go thank our patrons, and we will be back to discuss more about Skyrim, so don't go anywhere.
It's cozy season, and nothing compares to wrapping yourself in a Minky Couture blanket. Luxuriously soft, perfectly warm, thoughtfully made. From movie nights to chilly mornings, Minky Couture turns everyday moments into pure comfort. Once you feel it, you'll understand why it's called the original best blanket ever. Visit minkycouture.com or a store near you and make this cozy season your softest one yet.
This is Hamish Morak, Dragonborn, and you are educating yourself to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast.
All right, so here we are in the middle of the show. This is where we get to thank our patrons for being awesome and helping to support the show. And I have to shout out some new patrons, Jordan H. and Glenn. Just Glenn, no last name, just Glenn. Thank you to both of you for supporting us. And if you are interested in joining the Patreon like they did, you can go to patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast and check out all the different stuff you can get. Ad-free episodes and joining us on patron chats and t-shirts and stickers and all sorts of things. So go check that out. Also, we have to thank our Daedric Princes, Jacob K, Kira C, and Noodle Al Dente, our Daedric Prince tier patrons, because they get shout outs every week. And just thank you to all 117 of you currently who are supporting this show. So thank you so very, very much. Also, if you would like to help support the show in other ways, leaving a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts with some words would be awesome. We'll read that out on a future episode of the show. Also, if you rate the show on Spotify, if that's a place where you listen, or whatever other podcatcher you listen to, that's a great way to support the show as well. And you can even comment on the episodes and tell us what things you liked about the episodes. And I've just recently went through like the last week of stuff that came in for the most recent episodes, and those are now visible. So if you scroll through, you can see what other people wrote. So thank you to everybody for your support. All of that helps amazingly. And one other announcement we have coming up next week on this show, a very special guest. Because we were able to had some conversations. I pulled some through strings, and actually it wasn't hard at all. I just talked to the people.
They're very accommodating.
At Sauce. Thank you to Gina.
Make it sound like we do actual like effort.
No, I just had to reach out.
Join us, and it's like we'd love to. It's like perfect.
Yeah. Hey, can we make this happen? Yeah, sure. Here, what do you want to do? Okay, this cool. Yeah. So we're gonna have Zanky on the show with us next week.
Yes,
live.
Elder Scrolls Lore Master.
Elder Scrolls Lore Master live on the show next week. week. So today is the 4th as we record this. This would be on the 11th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And if you live in a different time zone, because there's lots of them, then just Google it. You'll figure it out. I trust you know how to use the internet. But come join us for the live show. Yeah, come join us for the live show. And if you miss it live, don't worry. It'll be up everywhere and you'll be able to hear it.
Of course.
But we have some very cool questions for him about Hermaeus Mora and Necrom and the Dunmer and maybe another funny question we've got there at the end. So so come join us for that.
We're always very serious, Tom. What are you talking about?
Very serious all the time.
Very serious show.
So that's coming up and we got more show to do. So don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, dear child of cities. That is why the Night Mother loves you.
All right, so we're back. And normally on these episodes, we talk about things like the architecture and the flora and fauna. And I think we're still going to hit up on these things. But there really isn't a whole lot to say about the architecture when everybody has been there and the entire zone is designed around Northern Europe.
Yes, very much so. Think Vikings, think Northern Europe. Congratulations, you have found Skyrim.
You have found Skyrim. World. Right. Yeah, like hatch roof buildings made out of wood and stone castles. Like, congratulations, there's Skyrim. It's not a secret where the influence comes for this zone, architecture-wise.
As weird as it gets, really, is when we discuss like Markarth or talk about Blackreach, where it's just like you have the Dwemer influence, so it's a little bit steampunky, but it's just mixed into all of the normal stuff. It's not even completely separate. It's just combined with it.
It's like underneath, and then they built other stuff on top of it in the Nordic way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, and there's even a little bit of Ayleid stuff still in this region.
There's bits. Yeah, I was going to say they're kind of always. It's kind of the way that there's a little bit of Dwemer kind of scattered about. Mm-hmm. You always get a little bit of Ayleid scattered about too.
Yeah. So that's the architecture. Not a whole lot to say with that. But here, let's talk about the flora and the fauna. So flora-wise, again, it's very Northern Europe. We've got pine forests. We've got the one thing that is notable here that I find interesting is the amount of mushrooms. We get lots of mushrooms. Even though they're not like the giant mushrooms, they're still like they're in caves. They're all over the place.
Right. Especially you get the bioluminescent ones underneath the area, which is even more notable because those ones, unlike you had mentioned, they're a little more normalized above ground in caves and stuff like that. Once you get into Blackreach, it definitely mimics much more of what you see in Vardenfell and in the Morrowind region, where they're enormous, they're super overgrown, like you can basically build houses out of them. Except these ones kind of glow fun colors.
Right. Yeah, it is a little bit of Vardenfell underneath Skyrim, which is kind of fun. And then this is interesting. The UESP notes tundra cotton being a very specific kind of thing that is found in this area, which is used for making potions, but also many of the fabrics used for clothing for the people of Skyrim. So they actually have their own type of cotton. And when you think of cotton, you don't think of northern frozen forms of the plant.
It's actually quite the opposite in real life.
Right. You think of like the American South and all the cotton farms and all of that. But no, there's tundra cotton, which is very specific to this area. So moving on to fauna, we're all, again, very familiar with many of the different things running around. Horkers, ice wolves, bears, a lot of horkers, slaughterfish.
Which is a great creature, by the way.
I feel like the only fish you ever see are, I mean, I guess there's the tiny little fish that are like these, they're not, I mean, it's almost like they're just a texture in the water. They're not even much of anything.
I mean, other than the joke that they added fishing to the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, like you said, there's always slaughterfish, but slaughterfish are like the most well-known from the series. They've actually been around pretty much since the start. And they're horrible. So I think it's just, they're more memorable. But
yeah, they always come and try to eat you when you swim across the river. Yeah.
But there are totally there are normal fish.
There are.
There are, because a lot of them are alchemy ingredients.
Right. You can go
some
fishing.
Of them are food. You can go fishing.
Yeah.
And prior to them adding fishing with the anniversary edition, if you were quick enough, you could shoot them with a bow and arrow, or you could grab them when they were going. Like, it was one of my favorite things to do, which is bizarre. But these games are about embracing the bizarre, I suppose. When you would find that the fish would actually be like going upstream. So like when there would be some like rapids or stuff in rivers, you could see them like hopping up and you
like
could
salmon.
snag them. Yeah, you could literally grab the salmon, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, you're right. There are other fish. It's just the only ones I ever feel like I care about are the slaughterfish because they're trying to eat you.
Because the salmon is just living its life, whereas the slaughterfish is like, I'm going to prevent you from fast traveling by gently nibbling your ankle.
I'm going to bite your butt.
Yeah, it's just like, well, you're just being a douche.
Stop it, slaughterfish.
Yes.
Stop
just
it.
want to fast travel.
Stop it. We also end up with like, I don't know, these weird magic-y and more unique kind of. Obviously, there's dragons. We don't need to talk about dragons, but
yeah, those aren't even necessarily unique to the regions. The region. They're just very well known because it involved the main plot of the Elder Scrolls V.
Right, exactly.
And there are a lot of dragon mounds and stuff like that where there were deceased ones buried.
Yeah, but then we have like Spriggans and Hagravens and Wisp Mothers, all of these more like mysterious and magical kinds of creatures or peoples that aren't really peoples, but are peoples. Peoples. And then, of course, Draugr living underneath.
Yeah, Draugr are
places.
incredibly common in the crypts, as well as the dragon priests are very common as well, strongly tied into the Draugr, who are usually taking care of them in and amongst all of the crypts.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of that stuff, and other magic-y creatures and things too. But that's for the most part, that's the fauna that are worth mentioning.
The rest are very generic, like you would find in like rabbits or
rabbits,
deer. Like none of those
little fox that runs on the side of the road.
Correct. Like they're not so much notable.
Right. Nate Perkypile, who has been on the show, or at least on the Fallout show.
He was on the Fallout Lorecast.
He was on the Fallout show.
I was going to say, I remember that interview, but it was not on an interview on a show that I was on. I'm pretty sure it was when I was listening to you on Fallout Lorecast.
Yeah, go look that up on the Fallout Lorecast. Nate Perkypile has worked for Bethesda for many years, worked on Skyrim and Fallout 4 and a number of other projects. Left a few years ago to create his own game, which is going to be awesome. But he mentioned, I noticed this on Twitter the other day, somebody had posted a dragon mask, one of their dragon priest masks. And he always has these fun little anecdotes. Like, that was not originally in the scope of the game. That was something one of the designers just did on their own and just put in the game, which is amazing. And there's a lot of that kind of stuff. He talks about stories about the things the designers were doing, like working overtime because it was such a passion project back then. And so like werewolves weren't originally going to be in the game the way they are now. And one of the designers just took it upon themselves to say, okay, I'm going to make this work. And then created werewolves that you transform into and are huge and big and scary. Originally, they were going to be like regular models with like wolf faces or something. And it was going to be super silly looking. But the designer just went above and beyond and made it an awesome thing. So these kinds of things happened a lot during the design of Skyrim, which is part of what makes it such a special game. So
interesting. One thing that actually is kind of one thing that Rob brought up before we get past some of the fauna. It's kind of worth noting specifically, and I'm glad he brought that up because I didn't really think of it at first, was when you go to the Vale, which is more of an isolated section for quest stuff, it's actually more unique where it's very reminiscent of what you would find down in Blackreach, except above ground. So some of it kind of, I guess, leaked, for lack of a better word, into the overworld. And it's very unique to just that area. But some of the stuff we had talked about with kind of like the mushrooms and stuff like that. But then, some of the creatures that you've got, they're above ground. And actually, to that point, one thing that we didn't specifically mention, mainly because it's, I guess
it's what
I guess you would qualify it. They used to be snow elves, but the Falmer,
yeah,
they're pretty well known for being Skyrim. Like that's a very Skyrim type of enemy.
It's true. And we did an episode on them.
To not mention that.
Yeah, and how sad they are and how creepy they are for the people living when they're coming out of the underground
an
areas.
episode on all of that, but it was just kind of maybe worth noting that
absolutely.
And that all these the end of the show is apparently all of the things that I want to make sure we mention.
Go for it. Pile. Yeah, I mean we're at the end, so anything else you want to know?
So like we've covered the main stuff, but this is actually I was I wanted to just confirm before I threw this out here. Jonah Loeb, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I've actually never heard him pronounce his name himself. I've only ever read it, but he was actually one of the artists for The Elder Scrolls 5. I chatted with him on Twitter a decent amount. I actually won one of his giveaways before I was involved with any of this.
That's awesome.
And he did a custom print for me, which I actually have in a frame like over the side of my room, so I can't like show it. But he's a fantastic artist. And the giant in Skyrim is actually a version of what his father looked like.
Oh my God. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's modified, and he's made it well known before. So look up Jonah Loeb on like Twitter or just Google him. He's not hard to find, but he's some of his artwork is really, really cool. And some of the like little tidbits, like what the armor says, like in dragon script and stuff like that. It's like, oh, that's just my name. Like, so it's like, it's fun little Easter eggs like that. I don't know for fact if that specifically was what, I just know that means something, but I do know that he had it like, the idea for the giant was based on like, oh yeah, my father was really tall. You know what? We'll just modify this and we'll make, so it's a more fascinating little Easter eggs type of thing. So yeah, definitely check out Jonah Loeb. Some of his artistic stuff from The Elder Scrolls 5 is pretty unique.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a really cool story. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's great.
Yeah,
I think we're at the end.
I thought about that.
Yeah, we're at the end of the zone. My dogs are coming over to check on me, which means they want some attention. But it's time to wrap this up. So that's for the most part Skyrim. Obviously, there are more details about Skyrim that we could delve deeper into, and we'll have to hold those for another episode. Lotus, what else do you have going on?
As of late, I've been slowly putting up the adventures of my Let's Play through The Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. I got a decent amount of playtime over the past like week or so. And then I've been trying to cut them up into more watchable things for YouTube. But that's been fun to get back to that now that travel has kind of ceased for the time being. That game is real ahead of its time in a lot of regards.
And
but
real
the frustration
of its time
factor on
in other regards.
Procedural generation is a nightmare.
Oof, yeah.
Other than that, we've got an episode of Tales for this weekend. We'll be announcing we've got a brand new guest, which we'll be shouting out on Twitter, but it's excited to have them join us this weekend. And that's pretty much it. Just kind of ESOing and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. And me too. So we stream this. I didn't mention this earlier. Twitch.tv/robotsradio is where we live stream this. So if you want to join us next week to talk to Zanky, the lore master for ESO, then come over there. That's where we do it. Also, that's where I will be playing games like ESO and getting through some of the quests and stuff. So if you want to hang out with me, the reason I do this is not because I'm going to be some big streamer ever. It's never going to happen. Like it is all for the community. We've talked about this before. The vast majority of our listenership is on other platforms, but it's fun to have this as a live thing for those of you who are able to come join us and want to chime in. Also, it's part of why I like to stream games. I'm sure it's why Lotus does too. Like we're both not going to become big streamers, but it's so cool to be able to just chill out, play some games and chat with the community. And so if you have any questions, want to talk about lore or whatever, or podcasting, just come on over and hang out. So those gameplay stuff will be at random times. So follow the channel, keep an eye out, turn on notifications maybe, and then you can join us. Also, I've got a bunch of shows at robotsradio.net, and then we have a bunch of shows from both me and Lotus, and then a bunch of other hosts as well. So go check that stuff out. And we'll be back next week with a really awesome episode. So I hope you are all excited about that, and we'll see you next time. So stay safe out there and spend some time wandering around Skyrim again. It's an awesome game. All right. We'll see you all later.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach me on Twitter at robots_radio or Lotus of Doom at Lotus of Doom. Also, you can join us on the Robots Radio Discord channel. You can easily just search Robots Radio Discord on Google or check the description underneath the podcast. Also, this podcast is recorded live every week on Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the Robots Radio channels on Twitch, YouTube, and on Facebook. So just search Robots Radio on any of those platforms. Come join us. We'd love to chat with you while we record the show, or before or after. Either way, just come hang out with us. And if you're looking for more information about my shows and the shows on the Robots Radio Network, go to robotsradio.net for all the information about all the shows on the network, including the Robots Radio Rocket Club, where I help both new and existing podcasters to grow their shows, build their audiences, and create the best podcasts they possibly can. All of that at robotsradio.net. We'll see you next time.
It's cozy season, and nothing compares to wrapping yourself in a Minky Couture blanket. Luxuriously soft, perfectly warm, thoughtfully made. From movie nights to chilly mornings, Minky Couture turns everyday moments into pure comfort. Once you feel it, you'll understand why it's called the original best blanket ever. Visit minkycouture.com or a store near you and make this cozy season your softest one yet. It's cozy season, and nothing compares to wrapping yourself in a Minky Couture blanket. Luxuriously soft, perfectly warm, thoughtfully made. From movie nights to chilly mornings, Minky Couture turns everyday moments into pure comfort. Once you feel it, you'll understand why it's called the original best blanket ever. Visit minkycouture.com or a store near you and make this cozy season your softest one yet.